Schadenfreude. English speakers claim to be empathetic. They are not. They are simply linguistically unequipped to describe the pleasure they feel when a billionaire's rocket explodes on the launch pad. The Germans provided the solution with the word Schadenfreude. It translates to harm joy. The term first entered the German lexicon in the 1740s. It describes a complex emotional state where seeing the misfortune of others triggers the brain's reward center. Neurobiologists at Princeton University used fMRI scans to prove this. They showed participants photos of successful people experiencing minor accidents. The ventral striatum lit up. This is the same part of the brain that reacts to winning money or eating chocolate. English attempts to hide this impulse behind phrases like just desserts or karma. These are euphemisms. They imply a moral justification for malice. Schadenfreude is more honest. It acknowledges that human beings are fundamentally competitive and often cruel. The feeling is amplified when the victim is perceived as superior or arrogant. It is the economic engine of the tabloid industry and reality television. We do not watch The Real Housewives to see them succeed. We watch to see them go bankrupt. We enjoy the fall because it lowers the social status of the target. This makes our own mediocre existence feel like a victory. It is the ultimate social lubricant for the insecure. It requires no personal achievement. It only requires someone else to lose. English remains silent on this truth. German names the monster and invites it to dinner.
L'appel du vide. You are standing on the edge of a high balcony. You do not want to die. You are not depressed. Suddenly, you feel an intense urge to jump. This is not a suicide attempt. It is the call of the void. The French gave it a name because English psychology is too afraid of the subconscious. Scientists call it the high place phenomenon. A study at Florida State University found that 50% of people who have never had suicidal thoughts experience this. It is a biological survival glitch. Your brain detects a life-threatening height. Your nervous system fires an emergency signal to move back. Your conscious mind receives this signal late. It interprets the sudden physical jerk as a desire to leap. You feel a brief moment of absolute terror mixed with a bizarre curiosity. It happens while driving on a narrow bridge. It happens when holding a sharp kitchen knife. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre used this feeling to define human freedom. You realize you have the power to destroy your entire existence in 1 second. That realization is the void. It is the most honest interaction a human can have with gravity. Modern safety regulations attempt to erase this feeling with plexiglass and warnings. They cannot. The void is not in the architecture. It is in the hardware of the human brain. English calls it an intrusive thought. The French call it a call. One sounds like a disease. The other sounds like a conversation with reality.
Toska. Vladimir Nabokov claimed no single English word could render all the shades of Toska. At its deepest, it is a sensation of spiritual anguish with no specific cause. It is a dull ache of the soul. At lower levels, it is a vague restlessness or a longing for something that does not exist. English uses boredom or nostalgia, but these are shallow substitutes. Boredom implies a lack of entertainment. Toska implies a lack of meaning. It is the feeling of being trapped in a world that cannot provide what you need. The word is deeply rooted in the Russian landscape and history. It is the byproduct of vast empty tundras and centuries of institutionalized suffering. It is a structural sadness. It occurs when you realize that even if you achieved all your goals, you would still be unsatisfied. It is the realization that the universe is indifferent to your desire for purpose. Modern consumerism tries to cure Toska with shopping and digital distractions. This only masks the symptoms. Toska is the baseline state of the conscious mind when it stops lying to itself. It is the weight of time passing without significance. English speakers prefer to stay busy so they never have to feel it. Russians named it so they could sit with it and drink tea. It is the difference between a temporary mood and an existential condition. We pretend it is depression because we want a pill to fix it. Toska cannot be fixed because it is not a mistake. It is the truth.
Mamihlapinatapai. This word comes from the Hygge language of Tierra del Fuego. It is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most succinct word in the world. It describes a look shared by two people. Both desire that the other person initiates something that they both want, but neither is willing to start. It is the silence between two lovers who need to break up. It is the tension between two rivals who want to fight. It is a state of total social paralysis. English requires a paragraph to explain this. The Hygge people required one word. The irony is that the Hygge language is nearly extinct. The culture that perfected the description of unspoken communication was destroyed by colonial expansion. We have the word, but the people who spoke it are gone. This feeling is the core of every failed romantic encounter in human history. It is the fear of rejection manifesting as a shared gaze. It occurs in boardrooms and bedrooms. It is the ultimate expression of the prisoner's dilemma. If both act, both win. If neither acts, both lose. Usually, neither acts. We stand in elevators and grocery lines staring at each other, waiting for a signal that never comes. We live in an era of hyper-communication, yet we remain trapped in the Mamihlapinatapai. We have more tools to talk than ever before, but we still use our eyes to ask for permission we will never grant.
Saudade. The Portuguese discovered this feeling while sailing across the Atlantic to colonize lands they didn't own. It is a deep emotional state of nostalgic longing for an absent something or someone that one loves. It often carries the knowledge that the object of longing might never return. It is the love that remains after the person is gone. It is not just sadness, it is the pleasure of suffering from that sadness. It is a key element of the Portuguese national identity. They even have a specific music genre, fado, dedicated to it. English attempts to use melancholy or homesickness. These are insufficient. Melancholy is a state of mind. Saudade is a physical weight. It is the feeling of a missing limb. It is the irony of missing a past that may have been invented by your own memory. It is the ultimate marketing tool for the travel and luxury industries. They sell you the promise of ending your saudade, knowing it is impossible. You cannot return to a time that no longer exists. You cannot find a person who has changed into someone else. Saudade is the realization that time is linear and destructive. It is the tax we pay for having the capacity to value anything at all. English speakers call it moving on. The Portuguese know that you never move on. You just learn to carry the ghost. It is a beautiful way to describe being haunted by your own life.
Age-otori. The Japanese recognized a specific type of social humiliation that English ignores. Age-otori is the feeling of looking worse after a haircut. It is the gap between the image you had in your head and the reflection in the mirror. It is a micro-trauma of the ego. The hair salon industry relies on the fact that hair grows back. If it didn't, every barber would be in prison. We pay professionals to alter our appearance. We do this to feel more confident. Age-otori is the betrayal of that transaction. It is the realization that you have paid someone to make you less attractive. You have to walk into the world and pretend you are happy with the result. It is a unique form of social anxiety. Your friends will lie to you. They will say it looks fresh or different. These are synonyms for bad. English lacks this word because Western culture prizes the illusion of total self-control. We do not want to admit that a stranger with scissors can ruin our month. The Japanese named it because they value the concept of face and public presentation. Age-otori is the loss of face in its most literal form. It is the ultimate consumerist disappointment. You cannot return the product. You are the product. You must wear your failure on your head until biology fixes it. It is a reminder that our identity is fragile and depends entirely on 3 inches of keratin.
Hygge. This is the Danish word for a quality of coziness and comfortable conviviality that engenders a feeling of contentment. English speakers have spent the last decade trying to buy this feeling at IKEA. They fail. Hygge is not a design aesthetic. It is a survival strategy. Denmark has some of the highest tax rates and worst weather on the planet. Hygge is the psychological defense mechanism against a world that is cold, dark, and expensive. It requires candles, wool socks, and the presence of people who do not annoy you. It is the deliberate creation of a small, safe sanctuary. The irony is that Hygge has been commodified into a multi-billion-dollar lifestyle industry. Companies sell Hygge kits containing expensive blankets and overpriced tea. This is the opposite of the word's intent. You cannot buy contentment. You can only negotiate it with your environment. Hygge is the art of ignoring the global collapse while sitting by a fireplace. It is a form of collective denial. English calls it chilling or nesting. These words lack the communal weight of the Danish term. Hygge implies a shared agreement to be happy despite the circumstances. It is a fragile social contract. If one person brings up politics or reality, the Hygge is destroyed. It is the most sophisticated form of escapism ever devised. It is the reason Danes are consistently ranked as the happiest people on earth. They simply refuse to acknowledge anything that isn't cozy.
Backpfeifengesicht. This is a German compound noun. It translates literally to a face that cries out for a fist or a face in need of a slap. It is a masterpiece of linguistic efficiency. It describes a person whose very physical appearance triggers an instinctive urge to commit battery. It is not about a person's actions. It is about their expression. It is the smugness in the eyes. It is the unearned confidence of the jawline.
Scientists suggest this might be an evolutionary response to facial cues that signal untrustworthiness or predatory behavior. English speakers have to use elaborate insults to describe this. They call someone punchable or arrogant-looking. These are weak. Backpfeifengesicht is a diagnosis. It implies that the slap is a natural, necessary reaction to a biological error. The irony of civilization is that we are forbidden from providing the slap the face is asking for. We must sit in meetings and look at these faces while pretending to be professional. This creates internal stress. The German language provides a release valve by naming the phenomenon. It acknowledges that some people are born with a punchable aesthetic. It is the ultimate critique of the don't judge a book by its cover philosophy. Sometimes the cover is a direct invitation to violence. English culture pretends we are above such instincts. German culture knows that some faces are just mistakes that need to be corrected by a palm. We spend our lives suppressing the urge. The word validates the impulse. It is the only honest reaction to a middle manager smirk.